Hi, band members. This is Bill Baden with B&MMenberSolution Solution,
I'm Matthew.
and welcome to our Member Solutions vlog. Today we're going to be talking about email spoofing. Just make sure we get a clear cross of understanding of what that is. And today Matthew is joining us just for that purpose. So Matthew, kind of give us an idea what email spoofing is about and what we should be looking for.
Email spoofing, there's a couple different versions of it, but the most common one we've been seeing lately, it's actually been around for quite a while. It's where people, by using some techniques in the back end a little bit, they can actually send mail and make it look as if you're the one that are sending it. So in this case here, they can send mail to your clients, your friends, family, whatever, but they can make it look like the email actually appears from you. Your name, it'll appear in there as well. And of course, if any responses will go to you, but more commonly they aren't looking for a response to these messages. Usually when they're sending them out, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get them to either click on a link or they open up an attachment or even just call like a phone number or something like that as well. Again, it's a really common way of getting viruses into corporate networks and such, or just getting people to give away banking information, little things like that.
Okay, awesome. So on a end user side, and I guess it does depend on what side, whether it's like from a client or a customer or whatever, how should someone kind of like look at protecting themselves, or should they consider putting some hardware or software solutions? Kind of give us a rundown of what that should look like.
There are things you can do security-wise to try and prevent against it. There's measures you can take on the back end to try and prevent it. And to be fair, a lot of those measures are becoming a lot more common. They weren't in the past, but they're becoming kind of standard procedure in some areas of industry, but there's a lot of areas that it's still just not standardized yet, or in a lot of respects it's not set up by default. So if you're working with people that haven't set it up, then it's not going to be in place there right now. Again, that's one of those things that a lot of people that are setting up accounts themselves that don't have a really technical background, they just don't know that some of these security policies should even be there. So again, I would usually say the biggest thing you can do though in these respects is just training people. I usually say that when it comes to viruses, when it comes to spyware, and even when it comes to email here as well. That's always going to be the biggest thing you do, is just train your users. Train them what to look for things. You know, if you got an email from someone that you work with regularly, but maybe they're using completely different terminology, there might be spelling errors here and there, they're addressing you different than they usually do, maybe more formal, maybe far less formal. They're adding an attachment they've never sent you an attachment before and just looks weird. Just pay attention to things that are out of the ordinary. That's always going to be the biggest way you're going to pick it up on there. 9 times out of 10 when people send me a message, they'll comment and hey, I got this message from someone, I've worked with them before, but something about it seems off. They never talk to me this way, they never send me an attachment, they never call me this, but for some reason they did now. Can you take a look at it? Sure enough, I traced it back, and yep, it didn't actually come from that person at all.
Interesting. So what would be a good common practice, at least when we're talking about emails, what the common theme would be passwords. What big tip you would say about your email password?
In this respect here, passwords are always good. Again, more complex you make your password, the better. However, again, if you can't remember your password, it doesn't really do you any good then. So again, have something in place there that is complex enough that people can't guess it, but something enough that you can remember as well. Word or a phrase, add in a couple of numbers at the end, maybe a date that means something to you, a punctuation mark, little things like that can make it a lot harder to guess. But again, for some of these procedures, like for instance, like some forms of email spoofing, they don't even actually need to know your password at all. Again, that all comes with security on the back end at all. So just because someone's sending email out that has your email address tied to it, has your name tied to it, it doesn't even mean your account was hacked at all. In fact, they might not be in there at all. They're not reading your emails or anything there. They are very likely not even in your account. Now, there are still steps you can take, which is why when you see this happening here, notify your tech person immediately so that they can immediately start taking measures to try and stop it before any actual damage is done. And of course, in that case there, if any messages did go out to clients, vendors, let them know immediately as well. It's entirely possible if you got maybe they learned about you from another company because another company got spoofed there. Go ahead and let anyone know what this is so their tech people can take a look at it as well. And a lot of times they'll work together to figure out where the breach actually happened.
All right, well, great information. So biggest takeaway, if anything, members, for our audience is, really kind of slow down on your habit side, really take a look at what's going on. Communication is the biggest key. Communicate to your customers or your vendors or anyone that you communicate on a day-to-day to kind of be aware of stuff like that, and hopefully they could also take that information back to their office or their crew, and continue that communication. I would still say, you know, change your passwords every so often. I'll say this in this situation, that really doesn't matter, but just keep those policies and procedures up to date. Talk to your local IT company, talk to our IT managers here. If you have any other further questions, feel free to leave them on the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us today on our Member Solutions, talk about cybersecurity, email spoofing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.